Do this, not that. Don't do this, do that. You've probably heard a lot of advice about managing your thyroid.
One thing you guys don't know about me is I am obsessed and I love makeup and watching YouTube makeup tutorials. And one of the things I love about them is the additions when they say, do this, not that. So an homage to all the YouTube creators out there for makeup and beauty, I am going to do today a thyroid. Do this, not that. Thyroid edition. Here we go, everybody.
So excited for this one, Dr. Maggie. Do this, not that. We've been waiting for this moment. Thanks for joining us, everybody, for Transform Table Talk Live. Do this, not that, thyroid edition. I'm your co-host, Anna Manuel, alongside Dr. Maggie. And you send me a lot of these do this, not that videos. So I know you love them. And it's our turn now.
Yes, I'm sort of obsessed with them. And just to remind everybody, those of you that are watching and jumping in, we've been doing a 3-part series all about thyroid, and we're on part 3 today. So just as a reminder, everybody who's watching, tell me where you're watching from. If you're an alumni, tell me which program or programs you did with Transform. What is something you've overcome? And if you're new to us or you have not done any of our Transform programs and this is the first time you're jumping in, what I want you to do is tell me in the comments, what are some thyroid questions, concerns, obstacles, confusing advice that you've heard that you want me to just blow the lid off of? Okay, put that in the comments right now. And if nothing else, just say hi in chat. That'd be really cool. Just say hi back. So on part 1, this is 3 weeks now that we've done this. Week 1, we did the surprising link between thyroid and autoimmunity. Okay. Week 2, which is last week, and I did that from location in Calgary. That one was the top 3 symptoms of thyroid that you wanted the answers to, which were fatigue, hair loss, and stubborn weight gain.
So many people dealing with these symptoms.
Absolutely. And that was a lot of fun talking about blowing the lid off that. And then today, by popular demand, by me, of course, do this, not that, for your thyroid edition. So I want right now in chat, tell me one piece of advice or something you've seen on the internet, on your Google searches that you were told to do for your thyroid that you're sitting here like, I don't know about that. Put it in chat because you know what? I'm going to answer it. What we did was we asked our community. We asked in our Facebook group, Transform Your Health Naturally, for the last 3 weeks, questions about the thyroid. And we asked people for what is the best or the worst advice you've ever heard or questionable advice. And we gathered them all. So we have a bunch that we have here that we're going to be talking about. But we also have a bunch that we're keep making room here for you today. So put it in chat. I would love to see what you guys come up with so we can interact with you live and blow those things apart. And if you're an alumni, tell me what programs you're alumni of and what you overcame in chat. That'll be really great.
Yeah, we have so many alumni and everybody chiming in, saying hello from all over the world. So thank you guys for being here. This is going to be a really informative one because you're getting down to advice. Is it good advice? Is it bad advice? We're going to find out Dr. Maggie's take, and not just Dr. Maggie. We have top doctors also joining us to talk all about the best thyroid advice that you're going to hear anywhere.
Let's get all the practitioners in the room now.
Okay, let's bring them on in. Let's welcome Dr. Jason Bradley and nutritionist Kathy Ryan. Why don't you guys both introduce yourselves briefly? Kathy, we'll start with you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Ryan. I'm a registered holistic and functional nutritionist. I've been working with Dr. Maggie since 2019, and I love talking about the thyroid because, man, it's connected to everything. Everything we do in Transform is one way or another connected to the thyroid. So I love helping make all those connections for people. So that's me.
Thank you, Kathy. And Dr. Jason?
Yeah, hey, I am Dr. J, and I am a 20-plus year veteran of functional medicine, primarily specializing in thyroid and thyroid autoimmunity over the last couple of decades. And I agree with Kathy. Thyroid is so intriguing to me because just about every cell in the body has a thyroid receptor. It's important to cellular function from the hair to the big toe. And there's a lot of myths out there and a lot of misinformation. So I'm just glad to be here today.
It's interesting though, Anne, when Kathy's talking how it comes full circle where everything is about the thyroid, for me, it's a full circle moment, because what started for me in my health journey was literally postpartum depression, hair loss, weight gain, fatigue that was related to postpartum thyroiditis that no one identified. And it wasn't until it was identified, almost 15 years later. So now to come back full circle, it's like thyroid started the journey for me. And we are now today here talking about the thyroid and its connectedness, but also its connectedness time-wise in my life as a full circle moment. And I do want to share with everybody that we at Transform have a program, 4 months to total thyroid transformation, that I wanted to let you guys know. And it's working with us and our team. And I just want to share this really briefly, which is if you are interested in working with us, there is a program with us for total 4 month to thyroid transformation that involves a completely comprehensive test kit sent to you. There is training by us and then live personalized interactive group sessions and personalized recommendations, all based on your results, your learning, your patterns, and what's underlying causing your thyroid. So I just want to remind you guys of that. And then without further ado, what I would love to do is we're going to get in on this.
And I'd like to highlight a couple comments just as we're getting started, because you mentioned that this was personal to you and it's really come full circle for you. And this is something that you help so many people going through your program with. And Rachel says, she's watching from Kansas, by the way, she's an alumni of Transform, getting close to so much more control. And your programs have been a huge game changer for thyroid health. And we hear this over and over again, whether people understand that they have thyroid issues or not. Once you get their hands on them,
Yeah.
Kathy was talking about that last week. You get your hands on them and you're able to really transform their lives by addressing their thyroid.
Well, the comments are popping in from YouTube right now. And if you're watching from YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. But one of the funnest parts for us when people go through the Transform program is actually the thyroid lab review. And we spend a lot of time on that, because when the connections and the light bulbs happen, it's an emotional moment because it's a linchpin for so many people. I'm going to ask every alumni who's watching right now of any of our programs, if the thyroid masterpiece of it was a big game changer for you. Share that in chat and tell us how. Share your success with people. Tell us how that was a major linchpin for you. That'd be really awesome.
And while we're waiting to hear those comments, I just want to say we are already starting to see, as we asked for, the good advice, the bad advice that people have heard from their doctors. And I'm seeing this one pop up a lot. So Jill says, from my doctor, TSH is fine, so you have no issues. How many people have heard that? And Dr. Maggie, is that accurate?
Okay, if someone tells you, this is the thing is, people will say, oh, go get your thyroid tested, do this. Well, when they tell you to do this, all it means is you're going to get a TSH done. And I'm going to ask Kathy and Jason, should they do this? Go get their TSH, get their thyroid labs done and get a TSH. What do you guys think? Let's weigh in.
Can I say,
Can
I say hell no? Can I
No.
say that?
No, and hell no. And why?
Go ahead.
Because TSH isn't even actually a measurement of a thyroid hormone. It's the thyroid stimulating hormone. And it doesn't mean a whole lot.
It's a brain hormone, people. It's not actually a direct measurement of your thyroid, any of your thyroid hormones. It's a brain hormone. Dr. J, what do you think?
I agree. You know, like I said, a couple decades under my belt with this, I can't tell how many TSHs I've looked at that were completely normal. But when we dive in and look a little bit deeper with the thyroid, and actually look at the real thyroid hormones, the inactive, the active, I mean, we find people low all the time with perfectly normal TSH. And it frustrates me that our colleagues out there say these incredibly, misinformed things, that if your TSH is okay, you're okay. I mean, like Jill said in the comments, I mean, people hear this all the time, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Well, Loretta's jumping in right now, and she's one of our alumni, and she relates a very similar story. And I want to know, as we talk about Loretta's story here, I want you guys, if it's you or it's me too, I want you to type that in chat, okay? She says, same here. TSH was checked, and I was told everything is normal. Everything, you mean one lab test, by the way. Well, sure, I guess everything, that's one thing. Even when I had the full thyroid panel done, I was told everything was normal. And how many of you guys were told you had a full thyroid panel? I'm curious. Only to find out that it was just the TSH, or it might be TSH with one other lab, like a free T4 or something. And you were told that was the full panel. How many have been told that lie? That's a lie you shouldn't accept. That's a don't do that, which is be told that you had a full panel when you had just 1 or 2 labs on the thyroid, one of which is a TSH. That's not even a thyroid hormone. It's a brain hormone. Right? How many of you have been told full thyroid panel? Type in chat. Now you can even put in air quotes if you wanted to. That'd be really cool, right?
Yeah. And you had asked for feedback from the alumni, and it's not just Loretta that's saying that, what's happened since going through the program. Rachel chiming in again with some more information, saying her thyroid numbers now, she knows, look amazing. First time seeing this after graduating the program. Mm-hmm. And also she can tell because she feels better. Metabolism, energy are back to where she was in high school.
I can't believe it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So it's really important. Do this when people say, go get your thyroid labs checked. Don't be bamboozled into thinking it's just a TSH or just a TSH in one other lab. Kathy?
Yeah. And the other thing with the TSH, if you go to different labs, or I know here in Canada, in different provinces, even the TSH number will vary as to what they consider normal. So here in Ontario, you can have a TSH up to 5 before they'll consider putting you on medication. Whereas in other provinces and other states, if it's above 2, they would consider putting you on medication. So even that discrepancy makes me a little crazy.
Well, there's actually a lot of controversy even on the TSH. And so to talk about just training from medical doctors, I was trained top medical school in the country, and I practiced as a family practitioner for the first 10 years of my practice. And I also trained other family physicians and manage other family physicians. And we are trained that TSH is the only lab that you need to do to evaluate a thyroid. So no disrespect to doctors, but this is how we're actually trained. And when I look back at how I treated patients myself, that's probably one of my biggest shame, is that to accept what we're just been taught. And one of the things that I was taught in med school by a very astute teacher was everything that you're learning here today, in 5 to 10 years, you're going to be practicing the opposite, and it won't be true anymore.
Wow.
What else I wanted to throw in here too is that in the comments, I saw Linda mention that doctors really don't understand the thyroid, and that's the reality. I mean, you just underscored that. We're not really trained beyond TSH, and that's part of the problem, because who do you go to? I mean, you have your doctor. I'll even say endocrinologists. These specialists. People aren't trained beyond TSH, and if it's out of queue, look at the free T4, and if that's okay, we're good. And it's just not a lot of thought, and there's just so much more to it than that.
Well, I think, I had an interesting conversation with Julie today, and we were talking about how she had been seeing multiple functional medicine doctors, even a hormone, she put in air quotes, hormone expert, and 2 to 3 endocrinologists all told her that she had full thyroid panels, her hormones were fine. And we got talking to what are really the root causes underlying her symptoms, right? And you guys write down your symptoms in chat and put it down. Like, how many of you are taking thyroid medication, seeing the endocrinologist, or seeing a hormone specialist, and yet still have a ton of symptoms? Put some of those symptoms down, because I bet you every single symptom that we're popping up here, Julie and I were talking about. And she said, well, what is the root cause? What is really the root cause? And something to really think about, okay? And this is from part 1 of the Thyroid Live that we did together, is that the number one problem with low thyroid, what is the number one major cause of low thyroid? Do you guys know? Type it in chat. What is the number one underlying root cause for low thyroid? I know alumni in the program know this, but those of you who watch part 1 would know that. And if you're missing part 1 or part 2, or the thyroid guide, type in chat, thyroid guide or part 1 or part 2, and we'll give you a link or we'll deliver it to you in your inbox. Let's have you guys do that. So what do you guys think is the number 1 cause of low thyroid and high thyroid? We're not missing out on all you high thyroid people, just so you know.
I think the question is really interesting too, and I'm looking forward to the answers. But here's the thing: if you can answer this question, what's the number 1 cause of hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism? If you can answer this, I promise you, you know more than 95% of the practicing doctors that are out there.
I wasn't taught this in medical school or in my first 10 years of medical practice. Okay.
Right?
So we're getting some guesses in. And one person says digestion. Another person, Emma Infodump, says autoimmune attack.
Chef's kiss, Emma info dump. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So what I think is important to understand is that below the thyroid labs that we're talking about, yes, there are comprehensive thyroid labs you can do. Don't just settle for 1 or 2, number 1. But number 2 is the patterns of these thyroid labs tell a story. And the number 1 story that it tells me or Kathy or Dr. J is that there's an underlying autoimmune attack that no one's dealing with, right? Where the rule of the game is you're supposed to hit a target, but the target's moving the whole time. If you don't understand that piece, then all you're going to be doing is chasing these symptoms in the moving target, always behind, right? Thinking, I just need a thyroid dose adjustment. I just need to do this. I always need to do that. But it's already passed. It's already on to the next thing. It's a process. It's actively ongoing. So I love the fact that it's not just about thyroid labs. It's what is the story? What is the pattern that these thyroid labs are actually teaching you and telling you about? What is it about the underlying root cause that's causing that autoimmune attack to go whack like crazy, right? How do we stop that? So then the target stops being a moving target. How about that? Right?
A lot of people chiming in with their symptoms and being told, despite their symptoms, their thyroid is fine. You know, they have all over pain, severe night sweats, red face and neck, dizziness, heart palpitations. We have people saying depression and anxiety. People are getting it's all across the board what the symptoms are. And yet your thyroid's fine. You're fine.
But the person that talked about, like, look at Julie talking about nodules, insomnia, brain fog, heat intolerance, hair loss, and much more. Julie, every single one of those symptoms is totally connected. And there's a story that's telling, I already see the story and I already know all the plot twists in the story. I saw it, 10 years back. But the thing is, how do we stop that? How do we prevent that? Right? Yeah. What do you do about that right now? How do you intervene in this pattern? Does it have to be a story where the end is already the pathway and the end is already predetermined? Or are you going to be interrupter, the protagonist, the hero in your own story here? Right?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So this is a really good first point then. So the do this, not that, just to summarize, is don't rely solely on TSH. Make sure you're working with a practitioner who understands complete thyroid panels and exactly what they need to test for and understands the nuances of it. That sounds like a tall order, unfortunately, to find somebody.
It is, but at the same time, we're also sitting here right in front of you. If you want to, like for our my thyroid masterclass, we send you out a test kit with the exact comprehensive thyroid panel that you need, and you get to learn and work with a team who really understands exactly what the underlying story is that needs to be uncovered, right? So, but yes, absolutely, find a provider that's able to do all those couple pieces are really critical, because for me, that empowers you.
And then does this go kind of right along with proper antibody testing? Because this is all kind of in part of this testing conversation. How many practitioners out there really and truly understand? And you've talked about this so many times, so I know it's almost nobody out there understands what to be looking for when it comes to antibody testing.
Oh boy.
Jason, Kathy, Jason, how many times have we, well, first of all, there's one group, which is the people coming with low thyroid, who already knows that they're taking medication and they've never had their antibodies tested. That's one group. Another group don't even know they have low thyroid, have every symptom of low thyroid, have never had even functional full comprehensive panel tested, didn't even know they were low thyroid. So of course they didn't have their antibodies tested. Is it cool? Is it okay not to have your antibodies tested?
I mean, obviously, I mean, we've got to get these things tested. I think that the important thing is with even when we're considering the autoimmune attack with the thyroid, and I think I can't remember who it was, but had the nodules that she mentioned, you know, as part of her symptoms. I mean, that can be dangerous. I mean, it can actually be life-threatening to not get this tested. And I think it's poo-pooed a lot. And we're like, oh, they've got hashies or this or that or the other thing. It's a big freaking deal. Like, it can be life-threatening. And when we don't have the due diligence to help our patients sort these things out, we're doing them an injustice. I mean, it's frustrating.
Kathy, do you have something to add before I jump in about these nodules?
Yeah, well, just exactly what Jason said, that and what you said before, that so many people are coming in without this information, and it is so vital that they have it in their hands so that they can take the proper steps to actually reduce the autoimmune attack on their body. And if they don't have this information, they're not doing anything. And then, like you said before, the target of autoimmunity can switch to another area of the body.
Well,
Yeah.
I was talking, not this Julie, but another Julie earlier today, but funny the name, nodules. Let's focus a second on nodules here. So, and autoimmunity. The only reason that someone would have thyroid nodules, goiters, and cysts is because the thyroid is trying to respond to the autoimmune attack, your immune system trying to attack your thyroid. Nodules, the only reason, and cancer, thyroid cancer, the only reason you would have it is because you have an underlying autoimmune attack against it. So when I was talking to Julie earlier today, she said, I had a thyroid ultrasound. I was told my thyroid numbers were fine. When I had a thyroid ultrasound, I was told I had a nodule and that we would watch and wait and see and repeat it in 3 years. Okay. Is that a do this or is it a don't do that? So if you were told, how many of you guys have been told you have a thyroid nodules, goiter, and cyst? We're going to watch and wait. Okay. You've been told to do this. We're going to tell you not that. What should you do instead? What do you guys think? What should someone in that situation do instead?
Mm-hmm. What
Find
should
another
you be
doctor.
asking for? Exactly. Anybody who has been through the program or has an idea, type it in chat. What do you think you should be asking for? And I will tell you, I had to practically beg for this. And I've had to do it on more than one occasion because for some reason, doctors are very hesitant to offer this. So what is it that Dr. Maggie is alluding to that needs to be done to take a look at these nodules, goiters, and cysts?
Write this down as a note, everybody. Pay attention. This is going to be a lifesaver. If it's not you, it's somebody else. Okay.
And I've actually seen people go through the program who have said, oh my gosh, based on your recommendation for this, it may have just saved my life. So what is
it? I mean, so, okay. The number one cause
cancer.
Wow, I love it. Okay. So the number one cause of thyroid cancer is thyroid nodules, goiters, and cysts. But the number one cause of those nodules, thyroid, goiters, nodules, and cysts is an autoimmune attack against your thyroid, right? So for everybody who knows that they have an autoimmune attack against their thyroid, right? If they know that as a fact, 100%, have you gotten a thyroid ultrasound? Ultrasound uses sound waves. There's no radiation involved. It's run over your thyroid, and we can see clear visual identification of whether there's going to be swelling around your thyroid, shrinkage, scarring in a certain area. Is there a nodule, like a little knobbing over here? Is there a circle filled with fluid? That's called a cyst. Is it overall swollen instead of a nice clean little butterfly here? That would be swelling of the thyroid, which would be more what we call a goiter. So none of those are normal findings. None of those would be seen in someone who doesn't have an underlying autoimmune attack against their thyroid, right? So what this means is thyroid cancer is 100% preventable.
Say it again.
Thyroid cancer is 100% preventable. And the most important, go ahead, Kathy.
What I find fascinating is if you went to your doctor and they found a lump on your breast or under your armpit, would they say, come back in 3 years and we'll take another look?
Never.
I mean,
Good point.
So why do we do that with the thyroid?
It's such a good question.
It's a great point.
right? So the most important thing to do if you have autoimmune related low thyroid is to get a thyroid ultrasound. This is really critical. And if you have a doctor that's fighting you on it, run, switch to a different provider. Because why? Because number one, they don't understand that most low thyroid is actually autoimmune. Number one. Number two, they don't even realize that autoimmune low thyroid and autoimmune thyroid with goiters, nodules, and cysts is the number one cause of thyroid cancer, which is a preventable cancer.
I just love our alumni who are chiming in with additional steps and measures to take, which I know you're going to get to, but maybe I'll just pop it up now. Cindy's so smart. Request an ultrasound and start using Thyroid Protect, selenium, and vitamin A as protection.
Well, let's talk about supplementation. I love this, Cindy. You brought me right home with this. So is there a do this, not that for supplementation around thyroid nodules or swelling, right? Or cysts, right? If your thyroid, how many people have thyroid that's swollen? You know what? I'm going to ask for a raise of hands right here, okay? And if you have all of them, like write all of them. Do you have a thyroid nodule? Do you have goiter there? Do you have a cyst there? Do you have it swollen? Have you been told there's scar tissue there? Does it feel abnormal? And I'm going to show you guys something. You know what? Put your hands over your thyroid like this. And I visually see it, but like feel your thyroid right here. It should feel kind of soft, fluffy, uniform on both sides. You shouldn't feel like there's like a frozen pea inside, right? Or none of it should hurt or feel full or uncomfortable. How many of you, even as you sit right here, feel like there's some fullness here? Or look at yourself in the mirror right now. Maybe you should like pull out your phone and take a look right now. Does it look kind of full here, right? Does it look swollen? And some people literally, this looks super swollen and they're being told it's normal. But sometimes it's just a sensation of fullness. If any of this is you, type it in chat right now, because there are literally millions of you out there and this is missed. How many of you have thyroid symptoms or even have low thyroid and have never had a doctor even examine your thyroid the way I just talked about it? How many have never had the thyroid even touched, right? So put it in chat. I just wanted to give you guys that tool of how I check my own thyroid, whether that's by palpation, touching, or even visually when I look at someone.
Yeah. And people are talking about that they also have neck pain. So neck pain can be a part of that as well as potentially swallowing issues.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I did actually a whole live around swallowing issues. I did a live training around swallowing issues and fullness or pain in this area. If you're interested in that, put swallowing issues training. I did that about a year ago, just to let you guys know. But that being said, we're talking about the do's and don'ts of thyroid supplementation when it comes to all these physical thyroid symptoms that we're feeling. So number one, everybody's talking about Thyroid Protect. So I wanted to have either one of you guys chime in while I pull up Thyroid Protect. Why should they do Thyroid Protect, Dr. J?
Well, I love Thyroid Protect. First of all, it's glutathione, right? And glutathione is unfortunately a nutrient that we don't talk a lot about, but it is a massive antioxidant. So it clears, literally, let me say what that means. It clears out free radicals, cancer-causing free radicals from the body, right? And what's really great is that you just apply this directly to the neck. And it, just like it says here, it shrinks goiters and nodules. A very small amount goes a long way. And it really benefits clearing out those dangerous chemicals from the thyroid area and actually the rest of the body too.
Well, here's the thing. Don't just take my word for it. There's proof. So what I actually tell people to do is don't just take something from my word for it. Do this and put it over. And if you can't tolerate it, because a lot of people, their neck is really sensitive because it's really thin skin. And a lot of us with Hashimoto's or Graves have very sensitive area hair swollen anyway. So if you put it over here and you find that your neck kind of can't tolerate it or is sensitive to it, put it on here's a hot tip. Write it down, hot tip. Put it on the bottom of your feet and put a sock on it and go to bed and you get that glutathione circling your whole body all night long. That's the other way to do it. I remember I saw that question on a previous live. So I just answered that for you. But so I would say Thyroid Protect is really, glutathione has a really amazing role. But here's what I tell our alumni to do and people in our programs to do is, get an ultrasound. Now that we have identified you're at high risk, let's get an ultrasound. And start using Thyroid Protect cream twice a day, right over your thyroid or on the bottom of your feet. And repeat a thyroid ultrasound in 6 to 8 months. And then share with me what happens and thank me later. And how many people have seen people's repeat ultrasound and the results? Kathy, you're about to jump in.
Oh, I'm just laughing to myself because I'm not sure if I should say this or not, but I'm going to. If that's not enough reason to use glutathione cream on your neck, it also helps with like that turkey neck that we get. Well, like if you're just really vain and you don't have a thyroid problem, I mean, it's kind of an off-label use, but just saying.
2-in-1 use there. Love that.
You mean the waddle?
Yeah.
And Rachel said she actually tried it on, like you said, on the foot for a while, a week, and then the neck could tolerate it. So maybe go back and try it again after a period of time has gone by. And also just want to point out, Rachel says she cannot wait to see her result of her ultrasound on the nodule that she had after going through the program to see.
Well, I want you guys all watching to put a pin on this, because what I'm going to tell Rachel to do is when she has a repeat ultrasound, she's willing to. I would love her to share her before and after with the community. So I'm going to put a pin on that. Rachel, I'm going to remind you to share that in August.
Love it.
Yeah.
Definitely want to hear from that. And people are just chiming in, really confirming everything that you're saying about their symptoms. And that it even looks swollen. They're definitely having trouble swallowing. A lot of people are saying that there's a physical lump on the side. These are people that really need.
Marilyn's result, actually, I want to comment on. And thank you for sharing, by the way, everybody who's been in the comment section, because I read every single comment and I will comment on most of these comments that I see. And if there's a question I didn't answer, I'm happy to. I'll check it back, even the next day. Our team will take a look at it. I want to make sure no stone goes unturned and you guys get answers to your questions, right? But it's interesting how many people have had an ultrasound and was told that there's reactive lymph nodes. So there's not only lymph nodes around your thyroid and around your whole neck. There's actually several different chains of lymph nodes. What are lymph nodes? Lymph nodes. It's almost like a station where your body's immune system throughout your entire body creates lymph to carry white blood cells to a certain area to defend it. Okay, whether that's infection, inflammation, right? So there will be lymph carries white blood cells to that area. When there's a location that's a hot zone that is drawing in a lot of cells because there's inflammation or infection, you'll get a lot of lymph movement into that area, but also out. So the lymph nodes around it get really swollen. So remember, I said inflammation and infection. So we make an assumptions as doctors and as radiologists that when we see a lymph node swollen around the thyroid, we just say, oh, it's a reactive lymph node, as if it's benign. Don't worry about it. Ignore it. Go away, because it's not precancerous or anything else to really worry about. And my bigger question for you guys is, what the heck are those lymph nodes reacting to around this person's thyroid? Why is nobody asking that?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously a widespread problem, because Loretta was told the same thing.
It's widespread gaslighting is what it is, and medical misinformation.
Mm-hmm. And more gaslighting, swollen, painful ultrasound, a nodule, but the doctor's saying no worries. So this is a common refrain. This is not an unusual. If you have heard the same thing, you are far from alone.
Yeah. And so talking about supplementation, Thyroid Protect Cream is absolutely something that I would recommend, and I would recommend it twice a day, regardless of whether it's low thyroid, high thyroid, or any of the symptoms that we talked about, really critical. But here's another thing. We're talking about do's and don'ts. What is a supplement that we're going to bring this up because this has come up. I'm going to ask you guys in chat to type in, what's a supplement you've been told that you must take for your thyroid? That's awesome. That you're like getting conflicting information on. Type it in chat. I want to know what it is, because we've had this repeated multiple times and people have brought up a lot of things. But if you heard a supplement supposedly good for the thyroid, but you're questioning it, or you seeing contradicting information, put it in chat. Because I can tell you right now, the number one thing we get questioned on supplementation is... Dun, dun, dun. Dr. J, go for it.
I know. You know what? This is how we are mind melding right now, because I know the answer to this is iodine, right? Yeah, Marilyn hit it for sure. Yeah, it is iodine, and I'll share my experience with iodine with you, but Dr. Meg, I'm going to pass it back to you for now.
Okay, so iodine, there's a little bit of a story around it, because traditionally in the past, right, naturopathic medicine, naturopathic schools taught every good naturopath went to school and was taught for decades that everyone with low thyroid, no matter what, should be on high dose iodine, and that it is iodine deficiency that's actually the cause of these problems. So a lot of thyroid supplementation has a shit ton of iodine. By the way, fair warning, sorry, I'm a fan of the cursey words, and you just got passed through one of them. But iodine has been in a ton of thyroid supplementation. And I'm going to ask, is it a do or is it a don't? Dr. J?
I want to answer this. I want to answer this.
Naturopath?
Yeah, I want to answer this from a provider perspective, right? And what Dr. Maggie just said is absolutely true. That's what we're taught in naturopathic medical school. I mean, that's exactly what we're taught. And I want to admit that I did that for a very long time until I started looking at and recognizing some patterns. I would say this, sometimes it was okay, right? I mean, and I don't know if it helped or not, but it certainly didn't cause problems. Other times, especially with autoimmunity and how much undiagnosed autoimmunity is out there, right? Which is the number one cause of hypothyroidism, right? When you add iodine into an autoimmune condition, it's like pouring gas on a bonfire. Like, it's just going to make it worse. And all that inflammation and the lymph that we were talking about, all that, it's just going to get worse. And it can actually put people into a thyroid storm and cause a dangerous emergency where you need to get to the ER right now. So again, I've been there. I've been on both sides of this, and I'm telling you, I'm converted. I've seen the light, and I'm not recommending iodine.
Yeah. And for me, one of the mechanisms that, and it goes the first, that this is a very, write this down. Okay, everybody. So what is the number one cause of low thyroid? And I remember Emma Info Dump and a bunch of people answered it accurately, is autoimmune attack against your thyroid, right? And so you can say that there used to be a lot more thought around, there's a differentiation. Some people, a minority, had autoimmune low thyroid, and some people had regular low thyroid. And people thought maybe the people with regular low thyroid could take a shit ton of iodine, and the people with autoimmune just can't, and they got worse from it. Well, now we find out that the vast majority of low thyroid is actually autoimmune. So should anybody with low thyroid take iodine?
Heck no.
That's a big no. And this is enlightening, because I have heard from other functional medicine practitioners even, and those who really focus and pride themselves on being autoimmune experts, say to take iodine. So I understand why people might be confused. There was people in here saying, I just bought some. Thank you for this information, because it is conflicting information. There is a lot of conflicting information out there. And when you're hearing, though, then that this could cause even an emergency at times, but certainly could make an autoimmune situation much, much worse, this is something that you need to know about.
Do you want to hear the mechanism?
Definitely.
I'm like a biochemistry nerd. So if you actually think about what's T4, T3, is the iodine is actually part of the molecule for the inactive and active thyroid hormone. So we need iodine, right? But we also have come in the past from iodine related swelling of the thyroid in the past, because a long time ago, certain countries did have low iodine. But in the modern world, that situation doesn't even exist, because iodine's already, salt, for example, we already put some amount of iodine in all the salt. And what happens is that when you give a chemical reaction, if you give more of a precursor, it actually will push the reaction forward more. So this is how we think about supplementation, even medication, is give more of a precursor. It will rev the activity of this enzyme here to create the end product more. So what happens is this enzyme, it's going to get really geeky. And if it's too geeky, just ignore what I'm going to say in the next 20 seconds, which is from like, let's say T4 to T3, right? The biochemistry activity of that is regulated by an enzyme. So if you give more precursors of this and push it this way, this enzyme becomes more active, but it's also one of the most common targets of autoimmune attack. The whole autoimmune attack says, this is way more active, I'm going to go kill it. Boom, the autoimmune attack goes up. That's how iodine is kerosene to the fire for anyone with a thyroid problem.
Well, and some people this is a valid question. I take salt tabs daily for POTS. Is that bad for the thyroid? Because you mentioned the connection between iodine and salt.
Well, no, salt is a totally different mineral than iodine. So no, if you are taking salt for a medical reason, we're not talking about Yeah, we're not talking about that. That being said, you probably are being prescribed a prescription of salt, NaCl, which is not your table salt, which is has some minute amounts of iodine that's added to it, just so you know.
Good to know. And by the way, everybody loves when you get geeky, they say.
Yeah, I have a question, Dr. Maggie. We busted this myth about iodine. You know, I outed myself as a believer and a converter, or a convert now. What about things like kelp and seaweed, high iodine foods? Walk me through.
You hear that? You hear that recommended as well.
Yeah.
This is a hot take I have, right? Which is, and Kathy, you're a nutritionist, so I would love your take on this. For me, one of the biggest problems I do see is that we're going to get into dietary advice, because there's a lot of poor dietary advice for do's and don'ts. And I see in a lot of thyroid blogs, people saying, oh, people are very deficient in iodine, so eat a ton of kelp, a ton of iodine-rich containing foods. And my thing is that the answer on that would be, based on what we just said, would be hell no. That doesn't mean you can't eat kelp and you can't eat seafood, right? It's just telling you not to eat a suit diet they're advocating for you to take high amounts of kelp, high amount of like seafood that contains iodine, for example. That's what I'm saying. It's not to overdo that exclusively thinking I'm going to help my thyroid. If you did that, you're actually doing the opposite, and you're revving and increasing the autoimmune attack against your thyroid. But that doesn't mean you can't eat those foods. Does that make sense? Kathy, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. And I mean, this just goes back to, hey, whatever advice you hear on the internet, it might not be for you. So there's good advice and there's bad advice. And anytime somebody's telling you to eat a crap ton of one thing, take it with a grain of salt.
And I know what Dr. Jason's thinking right now too. I think it's like, wait a minute, but we're telling you on the internet, right? We're giving you that advice on the internet, but these are people that hopefully you know by now that you can trust, because they have lived this experience. And Dr. Jason even saying he has seen the light in so many ways and understands.
Well, and so that's the other thing is that we actually get plenty of iodine from table salt. So that's it's something to think about. If you have thyroid, is at least I do, which is at home, I use sea salt. I don't use iodized salt at home. Why do I need to take additional iodine? There's already plenty of it in food that you eat outside or that's commercially prepared or whatever. So at home, I really only cook with sea salt. So one huge dietary advice that I can give you is I love to use sea salt. And one on at my table, I'm a foodie as well. So I'm going to tell you guys, there's a brand of sea salt I love for culinary purposes, and it's Malden's. So Malden's has a regular, and it's flake, which is kind of cool. I take a couple flakes between my hand and I crumble it on my food. It not only gives the salt without iodine, but there's texture to it. And you can get even smoked salt flavor and do that. So I love Malden's salt and the sea salt, and it's on my table just from a nutritional and foodie advice standpoint.
I just wrote it down. I hope everybody out there it did as well, because we're getting a lot of questions about what kind of salt. So
sea salt.
For that specific information.
Yeah.
Talking about the diet, I'm sure that there's other do this, not that information.
But I want to finish up on supplementation, because number one is we just said no to a supplement, which is we said yes to Thyroid Protect for your thyroid. That's a cream. We said no to iodine. I think we're going to roll back to another yes. I'm going to ask Kathy or Dr. J, what's another yes for thyroid supplement? Hell yes for thyroid supplementation.
I mean, the easy one for me is selenium. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I could rattle off a few that I think are important, but I love selenium. It helps with thyroid function. It also protects the thyroid. I kind of think of this as the armor of the thyroid when it protects you from the autoimmune attack. It's been shown in so many studies to lower the autoimmune attack against the thyroid. It's standard treatment in some European countries with Hashimoto's and other autoimmune thyroiditis and autoimmune conditions. So, I mean, I love this product. I just love this product.
Yeah, and I would add to that vitamin A. Vitamin A is the sort of rounds out the triple threat of supplements to protect the thyroid, right? The vitamin A is so great because it really helps with that conversion of the inactive hormone to the active hormone. and it improves the sensitivity to thyroid hormone receptor on the cells, on all the cells. And it doesn't, there's no hormones, right? It's just a beautiful adjunct to the selenium and the Thyroid Protect.
You know, a lot of people, might be a lot to write down, but we actually have a complete thyroid protocol about supplements in our thyroid guide and training series. So scan this QR code, everybody, just so if you haven't gotten the thyroid guide, type thyroid guide in chat, we'll get it to you, or scan this QR code right now. But yeah, selenium is a hell yes. Vitamin A is a hell yes for every type of low or high thyroid. And iodine is a hell no. And Thyroid Protect is a hell yes. So I just wanted to wrap up the supplementation part of this.
Well, thank you. And we did get a couple additional questions that we can just, I know, answer really quickly about supplementation. Thyroid Protect is not a prescription. It is in Dr. Maggie's store, so you can get it readily available there. And people wanting to know how long should I be on that indefinitely? And what's the answer to that for thyroid?
Well, how long do you need to be protected from thyroid cancer?
Forever.
Would you like to be protected for 6 months? What?
Tell us like it is. Don't hold back.
Would you like a little thyroid cancer?
Right.
Right. And how long would you like protection?
There you go.
Right.
Thank you. And the thyroid guide has additional information all about the supplementation. So if you weren't able to take notes on everything, definitely download the thyroid guide.
Perfect. Diet do's and don'ts. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We already mentioned that I'm not saying no to salt. I say yes to salt, but I recommend sea salt that does not contain iodine. I even put the name of a brand in chat that I use as a table salt for me, and that's Molden's table salt. That's sea salt without iodine. We don't want to overuse salt with iodine because we get plenty of it outside our home. So in your home, I definitely would use sea salt without iodine. Now, what are some? That's a do. What when we already said don't add a lot of seaweed, kelp, foods that are high in iodine. Don't avoid them completely, but don't overdo them. What's a do? What's a big do when it comes to diet? Kathy?
Well, I would like to ask a question of the chat. Has anyone ever heard of goitrogenic foods? Goitrogenic foods that will grow a goiter. Goitrogenic foods. That was all the rage back, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago when I first started out was, oh, don't eat the goitrogenic foods. And it used to drive me nuts because goitrogenic foods, quote unquote, are all the brassicas. So your broccoli, your cauliflower, your kale, your cabbage, all of these amazing nutrient-dense foods that have all kinds of phytonutrients and really good things for liver detoxification and hormone balancing. And we're telling people with thyroid issues to avoid them, right? And it used to drive me nuts. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. And so it was something very common that I heard a lot was to avoid these foods.
Do you want to hear the story that came from? Do you want to hear the story that came from?
Yeah.
This is a funny, not so funny story. And I'm going to out my peoples. But that's one of the main fodder for that story was actually a case study that was reported. And it was a Chinese woman who juiced 2 pounds of bok choy every single day for over 6 months and apparently developed a goiter. So people thought, oh my gosh, all cruciferous vegetables are bad. You can't have it at all whatsoever. And now they're goitrogenic. But I don't even know if this woman had Hashimoto's, had Graves, what else is going on with that situation, and how much iodine this person was having. But it's really like one major case study that was reported that drove everybody towards this, avoid goitrogenic vegetables. But the thing is, what is it?
Goitrogenic.
Goitrogenic vegetables. Goitrogenic. You
It's
guys
a hard word.
Okay, goitrogenic vegetables. The interesting thing is the list of them is exactly the same list of what we say is cruciferous vegetables. And cruciferous vegetables, I'm going to have you guys write down what are cruciferous vegetables. Type it in chat because a lot of people don't know, right? If you guys can type 1 or 2 cruciferous vegetables in chat, that'll be really great. Why am I saying hell yes to eating more and more cruciferous vegetables? Does anyone know why that's a hell yes or a heck yes? Dr. J?
Well, I think there's a whole lot of benefits to eating cruciferous vegetables. Kathy mentioned a number of them. I mean, in addition to being helpful in so many, I mean, just from a phytonutrient, a plant nutrient point of view, fiber, I mean, all of the dietary aspects. But certainly, as Kathy mentioned, there's also compounds in there that really help to balance hormones and slow down things like estrogen dominance. I mean, dinylomethane and No3-carbinols and all these pieces. But specifically with the brassica, the cruciferous vegetables, I really like that it's really full of a wonderful chemical called sulforaphane. I can't say it really easily.
It comes fast.
But no, it's amazing, and sulforaphane is another one of those compounds that's getting a lot of press in the medical literature right now. That basically it's like it helps everything. I mean, it helps hormones, it helps brain health, it helps detoxification, it helps preventing cancer.
Anti-aging, anti-cancer, hormone balancing, liver healing, you name it, fatty liver reducing. I mean, you name it. So, but here's the key. But there's a key. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say what I find frustrating is we have this one anecdotal study of 2 pounds of bok choy a day, and all of a sudden we're telling people not to eat these foods that probably are like you said, anti-aging, but longevity promoting, right? These are foods that literally help every organ system in the body. And we're like, but don't eat those. Listen to your doctor. Don't eat those. I mean, I feel like they're saying, don't eat healthy food, instead eat some ketchup and Skittles and you'll be fine, but avoid the broccoli. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Don't get my conspiracy hat going, Dr. J. We're touching the borderline there.
It's true. But so here's the interesting thing. This is a quiz for everybody. I'm saying hell yes to cruciferous vegetables. What do you think is the best way to cook or not cook them to maximize all the medical benefits? What do you guys think? Is it to eat it raw? Is it to roast them? Is it to steam them? Is it to cook them well done, medium rare? Like, what do you guys think? Is it to juice them? Right? Is it to blend them in a smoothie? What do you guys think?
I think either put them in the microwave or boil the crap out of them.
Well, and Ms. Craig is guessing steam.
Steam.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of what?
I thought you were serious. And I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, you thought I was serious? Oh, yeah. No.
No, I was like,
do I need to put my sarcasm hat on now?
Kathy just did that. That was AKA Canadian humor.
It was a little dry. I kind of missed it too. I was like, she's joking.
It was a poor attempt. I apologize.
Okay, so all of you guys that said steamed is correct. And if you're going to steam them, don't overcook them. What all the studies, all the literature say that when you actually steam your vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, and not cook them to death, by the way, just steam them so they're just barely cooked and retain a good crunch and snap to it. That's what activates a lot of these compounds, just so you guys know. So steaming, Miss Craig literally laughed at that. Maybe she's Canadian. She appreciates your Canadian humor.
Thank you, Miss Craig.
Yeah. And I love Kelly's in here, and Kelly's saying, well, what do you put on them? Oh my gosh, Kelly, right? Not only can you put sea salt on it, like I just mentioned, but she loves to bake with EVOO, extra virgin olive oil. So much health benefits, just so you guys know.
Good.
Yeah. So you can top them with something amazing like extra virgin olive oil, which I love. And extra virgin olive oil, are you supposed to cook with it? Dun, 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 dun. Is there more Canadian humor here? Extra virgin olive oil. What's the best way to consume it to get the most maximal nutritional benefit? Kathy, go.
The best way to consume
extra virgin olive oil is
raw, drizzled
straight up
on everything. Yeah.
Straight up. Don't cook it. Don't cook it. Don't cook with extra virgin olive oil. Okay. Use it as a topper along with that luscious sea salt. Just saying.
I had a friend of mine, a practitioner, that said food is just a conduit to get more olive oil into your body. And I really appreciate his perspective on that.
He's probably 96 and living really well.
Yeah, he is. He's older, and I agree. He is.
Perfect.
Okay. That was really great advice and very specific advice. So thank you for that. What about people talk about are there things you should cut out? Like, for instance, gluten. A lot of people had that as a comment coming in as well. Should you be eating gluten? Is gluten have any impact on the thyroid?
So we talked about how the number one underlying cause of low thyroid is what? Autoimmune, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody will know from our programs, one of our major focuses, areas we focus on is autoimmune disease. It's one of the chronic diseases I deal with a ton, and I have a ton of them, right? And one of the most important lessons, and you might want to write this down, is that gluten is a known trigger of all autoimmune disease. Doesn't matter what it is. Okay. And I'm going to ask you, do you guys know what percentage of low thyroid is autoimmune? Does anyone know? Alumni might already know. And we already know from part 1. And if you missed it, or you missed the thyroid guide, pop that in chat, part 1 or thyroid guide, and we'll get it to you. That the gluten actually, biochemical wise, and the way the molecule looks to your immune system triggers the autoimmune attack like kerosene 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you think iodine is bad? Throw some gluten in there, mix with iodine, and then that's bad. So really important to think about with any autoimmune disease is, I would say, eliminating eating gluten is really critical. Go ahead, Dr. J.
Yeah, I think also with gluten unique to the thyroid. I mean, I 100% everything you said. You know, I am not a fan of gluten. We work with so many people with autoimmunity, and how many people tell us, man, I joined the program. The first thing I did was cut out gluten, and oh my gosh, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I'm feeling so much better, right? And that's the major change that they had. But what's interesting about gluten and the thyroid is that the protein structure of gluten is really similar to thyroid tissue. So the body, you know, if it can get confused, right? So gluten kind of kicks out like this autoimmune attack, and then the autoimmunity is like, boy, I got to attack that gluten because I don't like it, but the thyroid kind of looks like that, so I'm going to go attack the thyroid too. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of crossover with gluten and the thyroid. I just don't recommend it.
So this is what I say in one of the training modules that I do, and you can quote this as a Dr. Maggie, you made up word. The way that gluten looks a little too human-y. and so your body sees it, and if your body's already attacking, autoimmune attack is your immune system. It's supposed to look at a germ outside your body or a cancer cell and say, you don't belong here, I'm going to kill you. But in autoimmune disease, no matter what the disease is, it's looking at some part or parts of your body and says, you're a germ and I'm going to kill you, right? Mm-hmm. So that being said, when you get gluten in your system, because it looks so human-y, the parts of it, your body says, oh, there's a bunch of invaders coming in I don't like. So it not only attacks the gluten, but it attacks everything else it was already attacking. So it revs up every autoimmune disease. So gluten is a no can do with any autoimmune disease, period.
And
Absolutely.
To answer, people are chiming in, by the way, you asked the question just before that, what is the percentage? What was the question you asked? The percentage of people who are dealing with low thyroid are actually autoimmune? Was that the question?
Yeah, based on data, not making up or guessing, like based on data, at least 80% of people with low thyroid actually have autoimmune disease with low thyroid, whether or not they tested positive on those antibodies. And I'm just going to also point out that testing, if you are lucky enough to get the testing for the antibodies and you tested negative, that doesn't mean you don't have autoimmune disease of the thyroid, because write this down, the thyroid itself has over 6,000 different targets of autoimmune attack. When they test 3 tests and tell you don't have autoimmune disease, they didn't test the other 5,997 other targets. Mm-hmm. So if it happens to be positive, great, now you know. But if it's negative, it also doesn't mean you don't have an autoimmune disease of the thyroid, which is why I say at least 80 to 90% of low thyroid is actually autoimmune, regardless of whether you test positive on antibodies or not.
Such good information. And I know we're coming up on, we could talk about this topic all day long. We are coming up on about an hour now, but I want to make sure to ask one more question at least, in that, what about food sensitivities? Do they play a role in this? And how does that impact the thyroid health?
Well, this is okay. So we just had launched my food mapping masterclass, and this was what we just launched it in January. And so we are on our 3rd month with working with individuals on their food sensitivities, and it is freaking mind blowing the heck out of people just how much and how big the connection is between food sensitivities and all chronic disease. Mm. So the question then becomes for thyroid is it just gluten? Because plenty of people with low thyroid have removed gluten.
Mhm.
A lot of people have. And they realize that did help. But wait, there's more. Dun, dun, dun. And that's not Canadian, that's American for plot twist. There are other foods that can actually trigger the autoimmune attack as well. And there is a test, a method, and a system to identify what those foods are, so you know all the foods that are triggering it. And it may be way less than you think. Dr. J, you're about to say something.
No, I just was going to go right where you went, and I think that, I mean, I can't tell you how much improvement that we've seen in people's symptoms, just starting with foods and working through their foods and figuring out their sensitivities and lowering the immune system response and the histamine responses and helping with digestion. I mean, it helps so much with that autoimmune attack. So yeah, I call that kind of the front end of helping the autoimmunity. And it's just mind blowing what we see as far as outcomes go. I mean, people's symptoms just get so much better.
Well, I actually have like a case study I just remembered recently too, because we work with a ton of individuals with Graves or Hashimoto's. And I remember Jane came into the program and she had known Hashimoto's and was already off gluten, but was still wondering why her meds were constantly being adjusted while she was still feeling like weight gain, the exhaustion, the fatigue, and the brain fog, right? And thyroid labs came in and they looked okay, nothing dramatic. So it wasn't like, oh, we need to, change the prescription dose of any medication. The question then was, why did the autoimmune attack still swing so much up and down? Well, at that moment when her labs were tested, she was decent at that point. But from her symptoms, it was obvious she was going high, low, high, low. Well, she had removed gluten and temporarily felt better and got worse about 3 to 4 months later. And we did her food mapping. Okay. And Kathy, I think you were there. So when we revealed her food mapping, she's like, but I did all the gluten-free. And how many of you guys have done the gluten-free? And it turned out that her gluten, yes, she removed it, but her what was positive, sky high.
Almonds.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to remove all the gluten, you're going to go, and some people will remove dairy, cow dairy, and then they drink almond milk. And then they'll start replacing flour with either coconut flour or almond flour. How many of you went gluten-free and replaced it with almond flour? And that's not bad. That's good. That's a high protein, higher fat, right? More balanced nutritionally flour than white flour example, right? But the thing she didn't know was that she had an intolerance to almond. And as a result, she went gluten-free, but then overate because she didn't have the knowledge to know it was also almond. So as a result, her symptoms went berserk. That's another kerosene in the fire. So really importantly, in our food mapping masterclass, and I'll have someone share a link in chat if you're interested in learning more, we have a food mapping masterclass where we clearly, number one, break down all the pieces in digestion that's really critical to lower food reaction. Number two, we give the precise test that you need to identify exactly which foods is triggering the autoimmune attack. Right? So that means which foods to remove. But most importantly, believe it or not, 90% of individuals we work with are learning what foods they can put back in and reintroduce more and more and more. And they lose their food trauma and they start to enjoy their food and healing at the same time. Right? So that's my food mapping masterclass, but that's how food plays a huge role in autoimmunity. Kathy, you're about to say something?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just scratching my ear.
All right, everybody. Okay, I think we were over an hour, Anne. Was there anything to wrap up before we head out?
Yeah, no, this was just, I really appreciated this. And I think we should do this, not that, because you're getting such good information. I mean, I hope that everybody out there is as appreciative as I know I am, because the information that you're giving is applicable, the real life steps that you can take. And for the first time ever, you now have these classes that can specifically address it. My thyroid masterclass, and as you just mentioned, your food mapping as well. So really, really helpful. And I appreciate the time from you, from Dr. Jason, and from Kathy today.
Yeah, so I wanted to remind everybody that if you want to work with us on your thyroid, there's my thyroid masterclass that that is one of our programs. There's a synopsis here and there, but most importantly, just, scan the QR code, head over to mythyroidmasterclass.com. I pick ridiculously easy to remember website names, domains, just so you guys know. And then, if you want, if you have learned a ton today and you want to learn a ton more, this is a QR code to a free thyroid guide, and this, I think, a 6-part, and it's going to be soon a 9-part thyroid training series for free. So if you want to download that, just click this QR code. And really importantly, we have a ton of different programs in Transform. So if you're wondering, should I do the food mapping masterclass? Should I do the thyroid masterclass? Should I do the hormone masterclass? Right? And, or do I need the whole Transform program? Talk to us. I don't know, and we don't know until you talk to us and let us know, because I love the idea that every one of our programs and classes is a personalized, customized approach based on your data and working with us directly with you, right? But we don't know what you need until you actually talk to us directly. And yes, we're humans. Talk to a live human. Book a chat here, and we would love to hear from you, connect with you, figure out what's going on so we can customize a solution for you, right? And I already shared the code. You can download the free guide as well as the 9-part thyroid training that's behind that as well.
Yeah, representative. You will actually get a live human. You don't have to keep screaming that into the phone.
It's so rare these days.
As Rachel just reiterates, the team is fabulous. It's low pressure. If you want to get some more information, book a call. And because there are a lot of questions coming in saying exactly what you were just discussing. Which one do you recommend first? I don't know which one is right for me. So that's exactly the kind of discussion you would want to have with the team.
I'm like, muhaha, can't wait to get my hands on you. I love it. All right, everybody. That is a wrap. One final piece of what do you think? You know what? You tell me, everybody in the chat. What's one thing you learned that's an actionable item that's a must do right now for your thyroid that you learned from today? Type it into chat. And meanwhile, I am going to ask Kathy, I'm going to ask Dr. J, what's the one big action that they think would be the most important thing to take on your thyroid today? They had to pick one. I'm going to start with Kathy. What's the one piece?
If you know that you have autoimmune thyroid, or you have any kind of goiters, any kind of nodules, anything like that, get an ultrasound.
Boom.
Hands down.
Dr. J?
I've got two. I think that the Thyroid Protect has so many, it's so easy to do. It's so actionable. It's right there and has so many benefits, not just for the thyroid, but for everything. But the second thing I'd recommend, I kind of want Dr. Maggie to do that palpation of my soft butterfly thyroid. You know, it looks so nice. So.
Oh. She's a nice touch.
I will show you how to palpate your thyroid sensually.
Okay, this is an after dark show now. This is turning into
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap. Thank you for putting in chat all of the one action item that you had. Thank you, Jill. Thank you so many of you guys that have participated in chat. Now, here's a reminder, everybody. I do have a surprise coming up. You guys have been seeing on social media something that says March 23rd, 2024. It's coming. And you know what? It is coming. And you want to be in the know. That's all I'm going to say. So in the chat, in the comment section, I'm going to put a link to our March 23rd, 2024. It's coming website. Go do it. Be in the know. I can't wait to unveil what's happening on March 23rd. It's one of the most exciting things in my life that's coming up. I can't wait. And that is a wrap, everybody. Without further ado, we're signing out. Bye, everybody.
Bye.